Hello 2360 students, I hope everyone's doing well. I wanted to start off with kind of looking at the calendar to give you an insight in where we are. So this week is going to be your fall break. I believe, depending on what campus you're at, you should have fall break the 14th and 15th. It could be a little bit different depending on your campus that you're at, but through Tennessee campus course, you will follow October 14th and 15th for fall break. So that lets us see that we are beginning Module 5. So Module 5 is really about how do we facilitate development of skills. And when we're talking developmental skills, we're talking about, teaching them independence and those literacy skills and what that would look like in an early childhood program. So we're going to begin this the week of October 14th, and it will go through until the 27th. So we will continue working on our case study work. Now, you just finished up your transition plan, right? So that was one of the things you had to do in Module 4 when you were starting to plan for receiving that child and thinking about some activities that you can do that would work toward that child's 3 goals. So now we're going to continue working on, now that we said we had some goals and we had some activities that we wanted to do before we got the child and what they would do when we have them. Now we're going to find inside of our schedule, where can we embed some opportunities for success to work on these goals or on the child's goals. So that's where we're going to be for the next couple of weeks. So even though you have fall break through Tennessee campus, we're still going to continue to work on our 2-week Module 5. So I'm going to go ahead and pull into the class so you can kind of see what we're doing. So if you click on Module 5, it's going to give you a little bit of an overview. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about some skills in these 2 lessons in Module 5 about supporting the students. So obviously I mentioned literacy, math, those academic areas, but we also want to think about communication, those self-help adaptive skills that children need to have in order to be supported, but also to help them reach their goals. So as we move through this module, we really have to think about our case study child and what kind of opportunities could we teach them to help toward those goals, and when would you embed those? Now, I put field work down here in the overview. That's your inclusive practices field work because I still want you to continue working on it. That doesn't mean that it's due. It just means that's something that you need to continue to work on. Now, for our assessment, you will have your case study assignment that you will be submitting to Dropbox, and you have your Module 5 quiz, which is how I will be assessing you for this module. You do have assigned textbook chapters that you will need to read, as well as going through your 2 lessons for Module 5. So if we're looking at an overview and looking at our objectives really are, how do you help the student learn those self-help skills, right? We want them to be independent. How do we teach them language and communication? How do we describe what that is in an early childhood setting? Going back to thinking about your transition plan and what those goals were, communication was one of them, right? So thinking about that. Thinking about embedding individual goals into your daily routine schedule in your classroom, which is part of that case study assignment you will be submitting to Dropbox. And then also thinking about any kind of assistive technology you can use to help support that child. Now, these module goals will support our course learning outcomes, right? So we're going to be able to identify and recommend practices for elements of inclusive early childhood programs. We're going to know and understand the causes, classification, and characteristics of developmental disabilities. And we want to be able to work effectively in a multidisciplinary team. This is where we're going to use community resources, we're going to integrate parents and the school to help support that child. Now, as I always do, I have included some guiding questions for each of the lessons. So in 5.1, I really want you to follow these questions and let them guide you as you're reading the chapters and studying the module. So you'll have more guiding questions in the first lesson, 5.1. Now, as far as your chapters, you're going to be reading chapters 12, 14, 16, and 17. Now, you'll see 14 is specifically talking about step-by-step learning. Then we start moving into those independent skills, those communication skills, and then thinking about those pre-academic skills like literacy and math. Now, with the two lessons that you have the first lesson, which is really looking at how do you, first of all, defining what adaptive skills are, right? And what are self-help skills, and how do we embed those into our actual classroom routine or schedule. Then we're thinking about all these other skills that we want the child to learn, like task analysis, toileting independently, communication skills and how that relates to academics, thinking about facilitating communication skills, thinking about if you have any English language learners in your classroom, thinking about STEM, right, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. How do we incorporate those sorts of things in with young children who have disabilities? And then also it talks about opportunities throughout the day, meaning thinking about how can we embed a lot of these opportunities throughout the day and what that would look like in an early childhood setting. Now, Module 2 lesson, Module 5, Lesson 5.2 is going to talk about how you actually use what you've learned in Lesson 5.1 and start actually putting some instructional strategies in place, right? And that's going to help you when you're embedding those opportunities. What are some recommended practices in an early childhood inclusive classroom? And then how could we use this strategy called pause and think in our classrooms? Now, once we go through the two lessons, you are going to have your case study assignment as well as your Module 5 quiz. Now, your case study assignment, there's two pieces to it. You're going to see underneath where it says Module 5 Case Study Embedded Opportunity. These are the instructions for this assignment to put into Dropbox when you complete it. The second part is just giving you goals. Now, if I click on the goals, you're going to see all the children listed here. These are the goals. So remember, you're going to stick with the same child that you have used so far this semester. So if you choose Clayton, you need to look at Clayton's IEP goals. Now remember, depending on the age of the child, you're either going to have an IEP, which is an individualized education plan, or you're going to have an IFSP, which that's the individual family support plan, where it supports the whole family. So it's really going to depend on your child's age. You'll see here that Clayton has an IEP, whereas Tiffany would have an IFSP. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at and review your case study child's goals. Now remember, you just received this child in your program. That's why you had to complete that transition plan. Now remember, these are the goals that we're looking for to embed opportunities to support these goals in this program, right? So what we're going to do after you review the goals, I want you to look at the actual assignment. Okay, so I'm going to click on the case study embedded opportunity assignment. Now in this, you're actually going to have multiple forms that you're going to have to submit to Dropbox. The first form is what we call a matrix form. That's really where you're plugging in and you're going to decide in your actual schedule where you can embed and address these goals. So I'm going to click on the matrix form. Okay, and you're going to see here, this is what it's going to look like. You're going to open it up and you're going to type in. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go back to your case study child inside of the module. So it'll be outside of Module 5 underneath case studies. And you're going to find your child and you're going to put that child's schedule. So there's a schedule in there for you to fill out. So this first section, you're going to put the name, the classroom. Then you're going to put in your schedule for the day. Now up here in this top section, this big heading, these are the objectives. These are the goals that you're going to have to write in. Remember, we said that you're going to get those goals from here. These are the goals. You're going to write your case study child, their goals, inside that matrix form. Okay, so you'll write them up here. And what you're going to do is you're simply going to put in X. Where in this schedule can I fit in and maybe think I could support that child's goals? So you're just putting an X inside there where you think you could fit that in, right? It's called embedding. And I'm going to be emailing everyone an example, which I feel like might help you, right? You might be able to understand it a little bit more by using examples. Okay. So after you do that, the next step is when you figure out where you could put an X in, now you're going to figure out and complete what we call the embedded opportunity planning form. Now it says you need 2 forms, but I'm fine with filling out one. I'm going to show you what it looks like. What you're going to do is you're going to list the child's goals. Now, if you have multiple goals, you may need to have this more than one, right? And you'll have to edit it number 1, 2, 3, 4. So you may have more than one of these forms, and that's kind of what it was talking about when it said download these forms. If you have multiple goals, you're obviously going to have multiples of these sheets that you're going to put into Dropbox. But what you're going to do is you're going to put the goal objective. Now remember, this is the goals that you had for your child. Then you're going to put the activity, routine, or event. So this is where this could happen. Where could you embed this? Is this going to be during small group time, whole group? Is this going to be during lunchtime or feeding or snacks? Where is this going to fit into to help that child get that goal? And then you're going to fill out some strategies, right? Like, how are you going to go about embedding it? What are some environmental supports? Think about your classroom. What kind of supports could you offer them? And how could the peers support them? And you're going to do that for all the goals listed. So again, you're going to have this other goal sheet open so you can figure out, what those child goals are. So I would have that open in a separate window, or have 2 windows open so you can kind of click back and forth and keep those goals open, or even maybe print them out. Now, after you do that, what you're going to do is think about, if you have 4 goals, you will need to have 2 of these forms. If you only have 3, you'll still need. So it depends on how many goals are there, of how many forms you're going to need. Now, things to think about in the table. I have an example here that really is helpful. It kind of teaches you how to break it down and fill it out with Henry, right? So we have to meet his needs of communication. Now, where in the day can we do this? And it gives you an example of, well, this could happen at breakfast and lunch, and then these are the supports I'm putting in place. So this is a really good visual for you to see how to do it. Now, the last part is a second form that you're going to do, which is how you're going to assess. Now, remember, anytime we're working with new goals and implementing new things, we need to see if it's working, and we have to collect data. Now, I'm going to show you this form. This form is your monitoring form, and this is what it will look like. You're going to just put the activity, so this is what you said you were going to do with your case study child. What is that goal you're working toward? What are the behaviors or skills that child's exhibiting? Now remember, you're going to have to go back and look at your original case study on your child and see the behaviors that they have. How will you collect the data, right? And there's an example of this in the assignment. How frequently? Like once a day, twice a week, and then who's going to be collecting that data? And that's just a plan for you to be able to monitor and assess to see if what you're doing is working. So I gave you an example here of how to complete the monitor and assessment form. Now, here's what you will have to submit. You're going to submit your matrix, your 2 embedded opportunity planning forms. Remember, you may have more than 2 goals for your child, which means you'll just have to fill out 2 of those same forms. And then 1 monitoring and assessment planning form. Now, I did put a rubric here to show you how you're going to be graded for the assignment. So you can see in percentage or points, this is how you would be graded if you had these elements included into your assignment. All right, that pretty much covers it. I hope that you have a good fall break. Try to get some rest, but also please remember to continue working on your inclusive practices. I will be doing a check-in video because I feel like we need to go over that. It's been a while since I've put a video on there about it to see kind of where we are, and I will check in with everybody. But if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And until next time, take care.